The only advantage that physical games have over digital now is that you don't have to wait for the game to download when you buy it on a disc. Oh, what's that, Star Wars Jedi Survivor? I am a massive supporter of physical media. If you're familiar with my channel, then you probably already know this. In fact, I made a video talking about the shifting physical media landscape a few months ago. In that video, I exclusively talked about film and television physical media such as DVDs and Blu-rays. In fact, when I talk about physical media on my channel, I'm usually only talking about film and television. But recently, I've been reminded that physical media isn't exclusive to film and television. To be perfectly honest, physical media is a very broad term. If someone is talking about physical media, they could be talking about anything from vinyl records to hard drives. Basically, anything that stores data, transmits data, and can be touched and felt is physical media. But usually when people use the term physical media, they are talking about film, television, music, or video games. The champions of film and television physical media are without a doubt the most vocal group out of these mediums. I should know I'm one of them. Film and television may seem like it's in a rough spot at the moment, but trust me, it's fine for the time being. DVDs and Blu-rays are not going anywhere anytime soon. And despite the fact that most people exclusively stream music now,
take me to your Xbox to play Fortnite today.
DVDs, cassettes, and vinyl records from all the big artists are still readily available for the public, and we eat that shit up. I mean, vinyl records cost an arm and a leg these days, and people, including myself, are still buying them. So trust me, even physical media in the music industry is still very much alive and well. I mean, seriously, I found this chick on YouTube who has 12 copies of Taylor Swift's Midnights on vinyl. Vinyl has a chokehold on music lovers. Like, miss, are you okay? Physical media for video games, on the other hand, is seemingly creeping closer and closer to its deathbed every day. The gaming physical media debate was in the headlines again a while back after Ubisoft's head of subscriptions, Philippe Tremblay, don't know if I said that right, but we're going to stick with it, was trying to talk up the company's revamped video game streaming service, Ubisoft Plus. In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz talking about the future of streaming games, Tremblay said the following: "One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a little bit slower to happen." Brackets, in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. That's not been deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game. So it's about feeling comfortable with not owning your game. Tremblay is saying that gamers need to get used to not owning their games. This, of course, caused quite the uproar for obvious reasons. I don't think I need to explain why. It seems that in their perfect world, Ubisoft doesn't want gamers to have any control over their library, and they want to be able to take games away from players whenever they see fit. And the gall of this guy to suggest that people have gotten comfortable with not owning their movies or music. Brother, let me tell you, I know a very large demographic who would rip you apart for saying something like that.
You take me to him! Take me to the son of a bitch! Take me to him! Come on! Go!
Gamers should get used to not owning their games. Okay, thanks buddy. I think your company should stop trying to take our games away and fix the bigger issues you clearly have.
Come on out, you rapist!
While Ubisoft certainly riled a lot of people with their comments, the slow decline of physical media is much bigger than just them. While the introduction of game streaming and subscription services like Xbox Game Pass are two of the most talked about culprits when it comes to the demise of physical media within the gaming space, the truth is that physical gaming media has been slowly downsizing for years now. It's a familiar story. For decades, video games relied on physical media to deliver content. First it was cartridges, and now we use disc. Well, Mostly, anyway. But after the ability to buy and download video games from online storefronts was fully realized with the 7th generation of home consoles, things started to shift, not to mention that PC players were already on board to Steam by this point as well. Wait, so you're telling me I can buy games for my Xbox on my Xbox and play them straight away? This is great! Now I don't have to go to EB Games.
Copy that.
I never have to leave my house ever again. Despite this, most people still continued to buy physical games because it was just easier, and this way people didn't have to wait for their games to download. Remember when you could put a game disc into a console and play it straight away? We sure took that for granted. But things did start to shift during this generation. Perhaps the first signs of physical media's decline was the slow death of instruction manuals. Here, let me show you. Okay, so here's like a real-time demonstration of how physical game inserts just decreased over time. So, here, Xbox 360, Halo 3. We open it up, we obviously have the disc inside, but then you look at what you get inside the box with the game. You have a whole poster in the standard version of the game. It's so big you can barely even fit it on the screen. Just in the box, in a standard game case. They just threw that in there because they thought, you know, why not? It's cool. Let's just do it. You have this thick instruction manual. This weird little slip of paper. An Xbox Live Gold membership trial, and another weird Xbox insert thing. You go on a few years later to Halo Reach, again, still on the Xbox 360, open it up, and oh, it's a little bit thinner now. We still get the super thick instruction manual with all the cool stuff in there, but we just have that weird slip of paper, and then that's it for that one. And then you go to Halo 4, and we open it up, and oh, there's nothing. You see the progression here? Developers started gutting their physical game releases to make them cheaper to put out. If you bought a game towards the end of the 7th generation and got a manual or even an insert inside the case, then it was a pleasant surprise. This continued into the next generation, and now with most games, the most you'll get with a physical game in terms of inserts is some weird safety disclaimer. This of course just makes buying physical games less attractive. With the 8th generation of consoles, the digital console storefront was functionally perfected, and this generation was when we saw most gamers shift to buying digital games instead of physical. It was just easier. You buy the game on the console, download it, and you can play it straight away without even having to get up to put a disc in. This ease of access is the main reason as to why it is now suggested that over 70% of total game sales in 2022 were digital purchases, and you can bet it has only gone up since then. The only advantage that physical games have over digital now is that you don't have to wait for the game to download when you buy it on a disc. Oh, what's that Star Wars Jedi Survivor? Yeah, most physical versions of games now not only require a lengthy install process, but some of them don't even have the full game on the disc. For some physical games, you can buy the game on disc, but if you don't have internet, you ain't playing it. Congratulations, you just bought a physical Steam key. A lot of games don't even get physical releases anymore. This is the norm for a lot of indie games who can't afford it, sure, but some big games are starting to do this too. Alan Wake 2 didn't get a physical release, and Hellblade 2 isn't getting one either. While I can't speak for Hellblade, the reason that Remedy Entertainment gave for not releasing Alan Wake 2 physically was so they could keep the game's cost at $60 instead of $70 were they to ship physical copies. So not only are we seeing physical games become less attractive, some developers are abandoning them entirely. For all intensive purposes, digital games dominate the gaming landscape, so why buy physical games anymore? The only reasonable benefit I can give to the consumer is that in a lot of cases, physical games are usually cheaper than their digital counterparts. Yes, the version of the game that cost money to produce is cheaper than your digital version. Ironic, I know.
Ironic.
Personally, the main reason I still buy games physically is because I usually save like $25 if I buy a physical copy of a game instead of going through something like the PlayStation Store. So at least physical games have that going for them. So if digital games are objectively a more popular and better format for game delivery, then why do we still need physical video games? If a person who buys a game digitally is getting an identical experience to the person who bought it on disc, then why do physical games still exist? Physical games do still cater to specific audiences. The best example I can think of is individuals without the internet. While it's hard to imagine, some people still live in places where they don't have internet that is capable of downloading games, and some people just don't have internet in general. Because of physical games, little Jimmy, who lives directly in the center of Australia, can still play Red Dead Redemption 2. Just don't mention the time that his aunt bought him Halo Infinite for Christmas.
My biggest complaint regarding Halo Infinite really is that the disc doesn't contain a playable game.
I grew up without Wi-Fi, so physical games were my only option for the longest time. Even now, I can't play games online because my internet is that slow. I can download and upload content just fine, but if I try to play a match of Fortnite, it usually takes about 2 hours for a button press to register. We still need physical games for accessibility's sake. It's that simple. But speaking realistically, most people who actually play games have internet and have the option to easily download games. So what's the argument in a world where everybody has access to digital games? It's a little trickier to convince a lot of gamers of how valuable physical video games are. Unlike something like a Blu-ray or a CD, buying a game physically doesn't give you an objectively better experience. You get the exact same quality with both formats. The only difference is that with a physical game, you get a case with some nice artwork, a slip of paper, and a really expensive frisbee that doesn't work very well. Now, sure, steelbooks and collector's editions are also a thing, but frankly, that's a whole other conversation. So I'll treat myself to 19 inches of Venom later.
What did he say?
Physical video games don't persist like Blu-rays because they are a superior format to the digital version. They persist because of... You know what, let me show you why physical video games are still important. We need physical games because without them, I would not be able to play Transformers War for Cybertron today. See, everybody has their own personal reasons for buying physical games, but there is one common factor among most collectors that make physical video games not just important, but essential to the medium: preservation. See, War for Cybertron and every other Transformers game published by Activision were taken off of online stores years ago. If you didn't buy these games when they came out back in the day, then the only way you can buy them now is through second-hand sales of physical copies.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
Preserving the ability to play video games is an uphill battle. In comparison, watching old movies is piss easy. 99% of the time, if you want to watch a movie, you can just Google it and you'll get multiple options to stream it, rent it, or buy it. And even if that fails, you can always just set sail on the high seas. Additionally, you can watch movies on just about any device in your house. I mean, they put Oppenheimer on a Game Boy. You can watch movies on anything. Video games, on the other hand, require specific hardware to play a game. Even if you have a copy of a game, you'll still need to make sure you have the specific console listed on the box to play it. I can watch a movie from the 40s on my iPhone, but Metal Gear Solid 4, a video game from 2008, is imprisoned on the PlayStation 3. If there wasn't a disc version of MGS4, then it would inevitably die on the PS3 store. Yes, I know you can emulate it, but it's not the same. Sure, a lot of games see re-releases on modern hardware, and there are countless cases of backwards compatibility giving easier access to older games, but the vast majority of games are only playable on the original consoles they came out on. If it weren't for physical video games, there would be countless titles lost to time forever. We still need physical video games to make sure our games don't disappear. Preserving the ability to play old video games is still a challenge with physical games. Without them, it is damn near impossible. If the industry shifts to only distributing games digitally, then true video game ownership dies. If we can only buy games digitally, then there is nothing to prevent publishers from wiping games from digital storefronts. If you own a game digitally, there is always a chance that someone can still take it from you. I mean, PlayStation stopped some users from watching movies they bought digitally a couple of years ago. There is nothing stopping these companies from plucking games out of your digital library. I'm sorry, but if you own a game digitally, I can't guarantee that someone won't take it away from you someday. I mean, look, EA suck, but at least they won't break into my house and steal my copy of Titanfall 2. Wait, what was that? Oh, god damn. We need physical video games for gaming history to survive. Unfortunately, physical video games are slowly dying. Like I said, physical video game releases are just not as attractive as they used to be, and some games skip a disc release entirely. Fortunately, there are some companies like Limited Run giving smaller games physical releases that wouldn't have otherwise gotten them, and people eat that shit up. Yes, the vast majority of video game sales now are digital, but that doesn't mean that there isn't still a massive demand for physical games. Make no mistake, just because physical games are dying doesn't mean they are going to disappear anytime soon. Basically, every major release still gets put out on disc, and there is no sign of that stopping just yet. We also have proper backwards compatibility on current gen, so that has to count for something. We still have physical video games, we just have to make sure that nobody takes them away from us. So what do you think about all this? Do you still buy physical games? Do you exclusively buy digital games? Or do you enjoy both? Do you think we are going to lose physical games soon, or do you believe that they will always exist? Give me all of your thoughts in the comments. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next video.